Dana went in the pound for pound list saying that Jon Jones is pound for pound.
Did you guys hear this?
Yeah.
Over Islam. I don't know what you guys think about that, but for me, I agree. I think if we're talking pound for pound, I mean, everyone's criteria is different, but I think pound for pound would mean, the way I understand it is, if weight was not a factor, size wasn't a factor, skill for skill, who would be the best guy? And I agree. I think it's Jon Jones.
Wait, but is that what it's actually? Is that what it's based on?
That's what it's supposed to be, pound for pound.
Because I don't think
everything
it is.
was the same.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's how they actually
it's all
score it.
hypothetical. It's all.
Yeah, it's all hypothetical because we can never be the same.
Yeah, because again, if
you
we
could
were
argue about it
forever.
And it's,
but I
a
don't
great
think,
argument though.
Yeah,
it's
fun.
a sick
It's
thing
fun.
to talk about, right?
they don't actually do it based on who would have the best skill
Who's
set if
they?
everyone was the same weight.
Who's they?
It's based on wins.
Well, again, like, who's basing this? Like, who's creating this criteria?
I mean, I think if you look at it, like
the UFC's pound for pound list,
well, it's not the UFC, it's the journalists who make the list.
which is from the UFC. All right, but yeah, like
I'm gonna pull up the list right now.
But like the journalists, can you name me like 5 of the journalists on that UFC pound for pound
No, they
list?
keep it hidden.
Yeah, but like that's what I'm saying. Like that's terrible. That's not how things should work. Like you should know who these guys are. Like again,
No,
like,
I don't think it's hidden. I think they actually tell you who's actually on the board.
and also that
Yeah,
list.
it's a journalist.
Okay.
Goes out.
And the sites that they work, like they
Yeah.
write
Does-
for,
do
I
they
cannot
actually?
tell you.
Have you ever
What?
heard of it? Is it MMA fighting? Is it any of the major sites that you've actually like seen?
I don't recall seeing MMA fighting on that
It's
list.
none of those because again, like these rankings, it is what it is. Like, but you see how certain fighters get certain rankings during certain fight times. Like that's not right. Like why that only happens if the UFC can work with these guys and be like, all right, this guy has to fight this guy.
Well, hold on. That can't be true, and Dana is disagreeing with it.
What are you talking about?
Like you're saying that like, maybe I'm misreading you, but like,
That the UFC usually works with like the.
are you
pound for
saying?
pound.
Is that what you're saying? Like
Yeah.
the UFC manipulates it?
That's not manipulate. It's just yeah, they do manipulate it. I guess that's pretty fair.
Because like by that logic, then why isn't John already number one if that's what Dana thinks?
I think he is number one.
No, Islam is.
On the
number one.
UFCs?
And Dana thinks he's number. All right, I mean.
Yeah, that's
first
the
of
whole
all-
thing.
Okay, first of all, Dana.
That's why this
That
is even-
changes this week, guaranteed. Just because Dana said that.
Well, I was gonna say, first of all, whatever Dana says, like, it just
I don't think
creates the
so.
discussion.
Because Dana said it.
Whoa,
I'm
that would
telling
be
you, this
okay.
week, that's
That'll
why
be
I said-
interesting.
Also, no,
All right, that'll
would
be
great.
interesting.
Also, Jon Jones hasn't fought in a year plus.
3 years.
So
Well, since the last
no,
one,
okay.
yeah.
This is why I don't think it. The people making the list, I think they're doing it based on who you
Activity?
beat recently.
Yeah.
Because Alex Pereira is number 4, and I think like there's a lot of like I think you should be higher than him based on skill set.
Yeah, but that's
Like,
not what it's based on.
but it's not based on. It's based on your current win, like who you beat recently.
Yeah. I think that's what it is based on.
Yes.
But for me, that's not what pound for pound means. The criteria has, even Joe Rogan has said it, like it's supposed to be if everything was equal and size was not a factor.
Yes.
We were all the same weight. Skill for skill, who would win? Mighty Mouse, if you put him at 155 pounds, he beats a lot of those guys. You put him at 170, he beats a lot of those guys. Skill for skill, I think he competes with the champ and Leon Edwards. Just skill for skill, speed. But then you get bigger. Like, it's just a hypothetical thing. It can never happen because your speed wouldn't be the same if you're at 170 pounds. You know what I mean? It's just completely different. He's a flyweight, so he's like, pew, 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 pew. It's just not the same. You can't really do that.
But it's, I
don't
think it's
trust
hard.
him.
I think it's also hard to gauge where.
I don't trust this guy.
I think it's hard to gauge where Jon Jones is at because it's been years since he fought, and he only fights once every couple of years now. So it's hard to gauge where he's even at with. All right.
That's what he
Inshallah.
said. And he took off 2
As-
years and came back.
Inshallah.
3 years.
And
Then he used
as-
that as a pro.
Yes.
To the
Also,
argument.
he beat Cyril Gane.
I'm about to say 3 years off and to come back and do that to the number one guy. Like
Wait,
Dana
wait.
said, I actually really agree with that. To
You
do
don't
that
think
to the
ma-
number one guy
You don't think
at
the
the
matchup
time.
kind of matters though? a
Yo,
little bit?
No, of course,
skill wise,
but
he's fighting a guy who can't grapple. You saw his
At
training
the end of the
footage.
day, it was the number one guy.
But
Regardless of his skill, you could look at someone who just made their debut who could be a sick grappler, and they might not have great striking, and they could probably compete with the champ, but they're not there yet. So if we're talking about right now, I think Jon Jones, what he did is super impressive. Henry Cejudo came back, he tried to do what he tried to do, and look what happened. He's the greatest combat athlete of all time. No disrespect to him, but
he fought you. He didn't fight. Like if Henry Cejudo came
And then
back
he fought
fought.
Marab.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He
You
didn't
see what
get
I'm
easy matchups. Like if Henry Cejudo came back and fought, I don't know who's outside like the top 30 of the bantamweight
But he
division.
fought the
with
best.
He fought the best. He fought the number
But he
one.
fought
I mean, at
number
the end of the
one.
day, you put him in
Okay.
the best. John, you put John with the best, and that's what he did. I mean,
But
I can't help it
is
that
he
Cyril
the
Gane
best?
was
They
the-
didn't put him against like Curtis Blades, a guy who could like defend takedowns and stuff.
But at the time, they put him with the best guy.
All right, so the right
Curtis
thing
Blades
to,
had just got sent.
so the right thing to do would be Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall, and just definitively prove he's the pound for pound guy, right?
Yeah, no, trust me, I agree with that notion. I think Aspinall could 100% compete with him. I don't know if he beats him, but I
Yeah.
think he can compete with Jon Jones 1,000%. I think he's a
think-
full package.
The reason they put Islam at number one is because when he beat Volk, Volk was number one.
Yeah, and also
And they were
Islam-
fighting for number
Islam's
one.
on a
Remember
13,
that was the whole
what is it,
narrative?
13 or 14 fight win streak. Like the guy deserves a spot if you want to call it. Like whatever hypothetical pound for pound spot there is, like you can't really be upset that a guy like Islam got that. And I think even though Volk just lost, like a guy like all these guys, like if we're talking about skill for skill, all these guys deserve to be on that kind of list.
Can,
You know?
can
Like,
we honestly say that fight with Makhachev that Islam should have dropped in the pound for pound to Makhachev after that fight with Makhachev, the first fight?
Well, wait,
The
you're
first
talking-
fight.
with Volk?
Yeah, they were
He
fighting-
didn't get number one.
I
after
know that.
Yeah,
That's what
Volk
I'm saying.
stayed number one.
And we're saying they fought for that. That's what
Yeah.
you had said.
But that's
and
not
I
a real
agree.
thing.
But at the same time, based on that fight, you switching those guys' place? Absolutely
Fuck no.
not. Not my. Not. I know
Plus the-
Islam was a little pissed about that, but it's like, your brother,
this guy went up a weight
he
class.
went up a weight
Yeah,
class.
that's how it works.
The journalists that vote on this aren't looking like if you fought Curtis Blades. They're just looking at who number one, like you said.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Cyril Gane, oh, number one.
But again, I think if
But,
we're basing
yeah.
it off like quality of competition and what they've done recently, I get the Islam one. I do think that's totally fair. But I was like,
Yeah.
even Jon Jones, like you can't really. It's just preference. Like who do you prefer? Like who's the best fighter of all time? Like, it just comes down to what you prefer and what criteria you're basing that off of. Like skill for skill.